This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on the South Today, the West Coast is in clean-up mode after the worst flooding in a generation has destroyed farms. Southern tourism operators hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic are in line for more government assistance. And a southern seabird is lucky to be alive thanks to the efforts of a Dunedin motorist at the weekend. Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi o te ahiahi nei, kia ora, I'm Simon Anderson. Hundreds of West Coasters will be relying on welfare support following this weekend's rainstorms. Flooding in Westport forced around 1,000 residents to abandon their homes as floodwaters rose.
About 1,000 people had to evacuate their homes in Westport after torrential rain hit the top of the South Island over the weekend, raising the Buller River to the highest levels ever seen. Acting Minister for Emergency Management Chris Whāwhoi says the government has now pledged $300,000 to the West Coast to help those hit hard by the flooding.
Given the need that there will be in the community, we're offering through a contribution to local mayoral relief fund $300,000 that the local council will have as well, and also acknowledging the issues that are further north in Marlborough, $100,000 for the Marlborough Council for a mayoral relief fund as well.
Agriculture Minister and West Coast Tasman MP Damien O'Connor says a number of stock perished in the unprecedented flood waters.
Quite a few of the farms here, like the people in houses, will have a challenging time ahead as we, get to recovery mode, and the water's just going down, still in town, so it's still going to be some time before we can fully assess what the needs of the community will be.
As a result, another $200,000 has been allocated to help those farmers and growers most affected by the floods.
There was one property lost up to 700 animals and possibly another couple of hundred animals. So the full assessment hasn't been done of that, but the Buller River runs a long way. There are farms on the banks of the river, and unfortunately I believe in one particular case that animals were moved to historically safe places, but unfortunately the river came up a lot higher and it caused those animals to panic and go into the river.
The government has identified about 500 West Coast residents who will likely need welfare support in the weeks and months ahead. In Westport, the South Today.
4 fire crews battled a blaze at a house at Lookout Point, which was well alight on arrival. Fire and Emergency New Zealand say they received several calls about a house on fire in Thompson Street early on Saturday afternoon. Crews from the nearby Lookout Point Fire Station and St Kilda were first to the scene, where the house was described as well alight. Fens believes the fire started in the house, but the cause is as yet unknown. St John says one person was taken to Dunedin Hospital in a moderate condition. A government announcement of funding for tourist destinations most affected by closed borders has been greeted with joy by the New Zealand tourism sector. Queenstown Lakes Mayor Jim Bolt says he's glad his region will receive almost $2.5 million from the Tourism Infrastructure Fund.
The sun was shining in Queenstown on Immigration Minister Chris Whāwhoi and Tourism Minister Stuart Nash when they announced a raft of funding and assistance for areas in New Zealand that are most affected by the absence of tourists due to COVID-19. Called the Tourism Infrastructure Fund, this round has a total pool of $18 million, of which more than half will go towards tourism projects in the South Island. Almost $4 million of that funding will go to Southland for things such as 2 new boat ramps at Te Anō and a new wharf on Stewart Island. $2.5 million goes to Queenstown for improvements at the head of Lake Wakatipu, plus upgrading Queenstown's marine parade.
What this is about, it's helping councils build resilience. It'll provide much needed jobs in the areas where jobs are short, or tourism operators are waiting for the international tourists to come back, whenever that may be. But it's also building resilience, so when the international borders do open, we have the infrastructure in place that will allow us to deliver on the expectations and the aspirations we've set.
In further good news, Whāwhoi promises that the visa application process will be streamlined for overseas workers. Also, the duration that workers being paid below the median wage are allowed to stay in the country will double to 2 years, creating more certainty for close on 20,000 overseas workers.
A lot of businesses, a lot of sectors are concerned that if they don't have long-term certainty about their visa status, that they may not stay in New Zealand. So this gives them that, and it's something that we've responded to from feedback from a number of sectors.
Queenstown Lakes Mayor Jim Bolt says that while he's pleased there will be more certainty for overseas workers and their employers, he believes in the long run more tourism jobs will need to be filled by New Zealanders.
In the longer term, we want Kiwis to take these jobs. What we're talking about, though, is a bridge in the meantime to take us to that position.
Dunedin City Councillor Sophie Barker says she's disappointed that Dunedin missed out on getting some of the $18 million fund. In Queenstown, the South Today.
The Yorkshire Moors visited Dunedin at noon on Saturday as a flash mob assembled in the Octagon for an event called the Most Wuthering Heights Day Ever. Around 50 people in red dresses attended the event, with participants performing the dance routine from the music video to Kate Bush's 1978 #1 hit, Wuthering Heights. Part of the attraction was to raise funds and awareness for male mental health issues. Organisers collected donations for the charity Wellness, Empathy, Kindness, Aotearoa. This is the third year the event has taken place in the Octagon. Wildlife vets removed a fishing hook from an Otago shag after it was rescued from a busy Dunedin road on Saturday morning. But it's not yet clear whether the endangered bird will survive.
Dunedin's busy Portsmouth Drive was brought to a standstill by an injured shag and a concerned member of the public on Saturday morning. Motorist turned bird rescuer Rebecca Stewart says the bird was in the road and appeared injured.
I stopped, I pulled over and then herded it off the road, so I was trying to stop the traffic, they do have drivers, tried to herd it off the road, got it into a corner at Sims Pacific.
She says the bird appeared unable to fly and had a fishing hook in its mouth, which it struggled to get out. She says cars were slowing and swerving to avoid a bird which was walking in the busy road.
I was out there with it, so I herded it back off, and here we are. Just waiting for Doc to arrive now.
Stewart managed to herd the bird onto the footpath, and a crew from Fulton Hogan arrived to cone off the street shortly after.
Oh, I could not be happier. I'm glad that it's finally going to go get some help.
Department of Conservation Ranger Jim Watts says vets at the Dunedin Wildlife Hospital were able to remove the fish hook and fishing line, but it's unknown how well the bird might recover from the surgery and injury. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on the South Today, a large landfill has been approved in a small southern town, and we have a club rugby wrap-up. Ka kite a konei.
Be sure to tune in to Football Chat every week, where we chat about local football fixtures, results and everything else that's happening in the local game.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Hi, it's Lindsay here from Alex Campbell Menswear. We have a massive manufacturer's clearance plus There's liquidated stock from our suppliers. For example, we have cotton casual trousers from 1990, dress trousers from 1990, merino zip pullovers, fashion shirts, warm winter shirts, jackets. There's a great deal on overcoats, blazers and suits. Come and check out our jeans. We're known for our jean selection.
Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
Come in and see the massive manufacturer's clearance at Alex Campbell Menswear.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air, and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
What have you got? Okay.
Chicks World, Party Town, excellent.
Love it!
Chicks World.
Chicks World. Right.
Hoki mai anō. 2 crew members on board the Matina container ship, which is in quarantine in Bluff, have tested positive for COVID-19. The Ministry of Health says the Marshall Island flagged vessel came into the Southland port last night and all 21 crew members were tested this morning. Rapid tests were ordered for the 2 crewmen with COVID-19 symptoms. Health officials report their conditions are improving. The test results for the remainder of the crew are due back tonight. A controversial Central Southland mega landfill has been granted consent. Located near Winton, the AB lime quarry is now permitted to operate without any limit on the amount of waste it can take for the next 25 years. The waste will come from all over the southern South Island. The landfill's area and overall capacity will not change from what is already authorised by existing consents. Submitters have 15 working days to appeal the decision to the Environment Court. In club rugby this weekend, University jumped out to a 17-point lead against Harbour, but with multiple players sin-binned, the game went down to the wire. In the end, Varsity eked out a 2-point win, 37-35. Rugby aficionado Paul Dwyer spoke to 2 of the players.
Welcome back to IDT Rugby Chat, brought to you by Liquorland. Oh, look, I've got a couple of the players from the game today. It was a big game here. Varsity went out to an early lead. Things were looking good for them, but Harbour just stuck into the game. And Varsity got on the wrong side of referee John O'Brien quite a few times. I think they ended up playing 40 minutes with 14 men. But they got up late with a late penalty. They won 37-35. I've got Taylor Dale, the lock from Harbour, and I've got Tom Rance, the winger. So, Tom, mate, I'll start with you. You really made hard work of that second half.
Yeah, well, it didn't help having a lot of players in the bin for a bit, which made it hard and let them get momentum with their big ball carriers. But we stuck to it, able to hold possession for the much of that working in that second half, able to sneak in with a lucky penalty at the end.
So look, Taylor, mate, I'll bring you in. So look, I thought it was a gutsy performance. You were down by 19-0, and the game looked done, but your boys just stuck at it. And every time you got close to the line, especially in the second half with your big pack, you managed to get across.
Yeah, no, it was good from the boys. Like from the start, it wasn't too good, but we just put our heads down and just slowed it down a bit, which helped a lot, and it helped us with Varsity getting a couple of yellow cards. We managed to get on top of that a bit, but they just got over at the end.
So you boys, so Varsity, you will play, I'm just trying to work that through, the second, I'm not sure who you'll play next week.
If they can see it's a Tyree.
Yes. So you'll play Tyree? Yeah. You're right. Okay, so look, just quickly around the ground, just remember the game here, 37-35 to Varsity. Tyree were too strong for Kaikorai out at the Eel Pit. They won 34 points to 11, and Green Island got up. Southern went out to an early lead, but Green Island got up in that game. They won 28-17 to go through as the top qualifiers. So our top four is GI, Tyree, Varsity and Kaikorai as the best loser. And thank you again to Liquorland, and we'll be back again with you next week. Well done, boys. Cheers, mate. Cheers. Thanks, Tom.
After the break on the south today, a flamboyant pedestrian crossing has been approved in central Dunedin, and we have a look at the early week's weather. Hei koko ake nei.
Inside are all sorts of innovations from all over China.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole Map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Hi, it's Lindsay here from Alex Campbell Menswear. We have a massive manufacturer's clearance plus. There's liquidated stock from our suppliers. For example, we have cotton casual trousers from 1990, dress trousers from 1990, merino zip pullovers, fashion shirts, warm winter shirts, jackets. There's a great deal on overcoats, blazers and suits. Come and check out our jeans. We're known for our jean selection.
Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
Come in and see the massive manufacturer's clearance at Alex Campbell Menswear.
MTF Finance can help you turn the key on your next vehicle with a loan made just for you. TCs and lending criteria apply.
Ngā mai noa, welcome back. Public support for a Rainbow Barns dance crossing in Dunedin has been overwhelming, according to a petition organiser in favour of the idea. Bar owner Dudley Benson recently suggested the colourful crossing at an intersection of Moray Place and Lower Stewart Street to support the LGBTQ+ community. A petition in support of the idea closed last week. Benson says he was surprised when about 2,000 people signed the petition, and a new online version of the petition is being launched this week. The Dunedin City Council says it started work to assess the project's potential cost. And now recapping tonight's top stories on the south today. The West Coast is in clean-up mode after the worst flooding in a generation has destroyed farms. Southern tourism operators hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic are in line for more government assistance. And a southern seabird is lucky to be alive thanks to the efforts of a Dunedin motorist at the weekend. now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT. We'll welcome Craig Page. Kia ora, Craig.
Good evening. Yeah, we've got more on this story breaking as we speak about two members of a crew aboard a container ship at Bluff who've contracted COVID-19. There's also concerns about a port worker who may have gone aboard the ship last evening when it arrived. So it arrived in port last evening and 21 crew aboard are being tested today. Yep. Both the crew who have tested positive joined the ship in early July and from Singapore, and they tested negative when they got aboard the ship. So yeah, so strange things going on there. It does show how vulnerable we all are, of course, at the moment, and as well. So the health officials are sort of scrambling at the moment, doing lots of testing to make sure this hasn't spread any further than the ship and they can contain it there. So yeah, of course we did have a really significant cluster out of Bluff, right way back at the beginning of COVID. So fingers crossed, they're on top of everything there. On a similar note, we've also got a piece about what steps New Zealand needs to take to get its borders open and how far New Zealand government's prepared to go in 2022 to achieve that. Of course, the UK lowering its restrictions as of today, and it's going to be interesting to see how things go there. There's predictions of huge numbers of cases going to be picking up and extra demands on the healthcare as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. The guts of it is really they need a higher vaccination level in New Zealand. They're talking about 80% plus, and we might be able to manage to have a bit more freedom. So again, hopefully things will happen there. We've got a story about a bit of a Dunedin institution, West's Quarter, that's out your neck of the woods, Simon, as well. Soft drinks they sell as well. It's a business that started in 1876 in Dunedin. Wow. And its previous owner, Alf Loritown, he's decided to give it away after 14 years in charge. He's been trying a while to sell it, but finally a Dunedin couple, the McFarlane family, who were living overseas, came back just prior to COVID and have decided to buy a Dunedin business. So yeah, good to see it keeping local. They've got big plans. They want to get the name spread around New Zealand. So you can't beat a raspberry and coke out of West Cordial, I have to say. The diet version, of course. Travel pages, we're off to Taranaki as well, for travelling the Surf Highway 45. So some lovely pictures to go with that. And it wouldn't be the ODT without some sport. All Black squad for the upcoming Tri Nations named, of course. A bit of interest there. Sad news for Southland's Ethan de Groot, who's been cut, but young man, and he's got a big career ahead of him, so that'll happen. But TJ Perenara back after his time in Japan, so yeah, he'll be no doubt battling for that number 9 jersey again as well. So
that's great, Craig. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And time now for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Looking at the situation, a fine day ahead tomorrow with plenty of sunshine about, but a cold front will arrive on Wednesday with more cloud and showers later on. Further changeable weather likely for the rest of the week. Still lingering showers at the northwest of the South Island though, which will continue into the week. 12 degrees for Westport and Greymouth. Partial cloud and sun in the northeast. Nelson on 12 degrees, 13 for Blenheim. And it's sunny on the eastern side, Kaikoura on 12 degrees, Christchurch 10 and Ashburton 11 degrees. Looking at what's in store for the southern towns, moderate northwesterlies and high cloud increasing across the region, 11 degrees for all centres. Travelling westwards to the Central Lakes, Te Anau is grey and windy tomorrow with moderate northwesterlies and 10 degrees. That's 10 in Queenstown and Alexandra too, both with light winds and some cloud, and Wanaka is 1 warmer on 11. Light northerlies, but otherwise fine here. Light northerlies brush the northern towns where it's otherwise fine, 11 degrees inland for Twizel and Omarama, 13 degrees on the coast. In Dunedin, a fine cool night ahead on 1 degree, fine early tomorrow too, some light cloud creeping in and northerly winds developing, a high of 12 and a low of 5. And the cloud increases and thickens on Wednesday as moderate northerlies persist until showers develop at evening with a southwesterly change, a high of 14 and a low of 7 degrees. And in Invercargill, some cloud tonight with an overnight low of 5. Mostly cloudy tomorrow but dry with northwesterly winds slowly freshening, a high of 12 and a low of 9. And patchy rain across Wednesday with fresh northwesterlies turning to colder southwesterlies during the afternoon. A high of 13 and a low of 6 degrees. And that's the news this Monday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Nō reira, kia pai te pō, ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.